All right, welcome to the video. We will continue with our look at the Orchestra Complete 4. Is it worth your time and money? And we're going to just talk about the animations and rhythms and voicings today and how you can use the filter system to get what you need quickly because the orchestra is bigger than ever and you need some way to focus in and not spend all day just going through presets. So let's see how that would work in a real world scenario where we start off with a simple musical idea, and let's see how fast we can get the orchestra to come in and turn it into something much bigger. So this is going to be freestyle, and we're going to hopefully do this in one take and see what happens, and we'll just see what the orchestra comes up with. I know these new presets are they're kind of engineered and recorded in a way that I think the older presets are having a hard time keeping up with. I'm finding that some of the older presets I need to boost up the volume a little bit and some EQ just so that they can compete, which is a good sign, but then immediately you would want the developers to go back and re-engineer all the older presets and sounds to match this new type of vibrant, dynamic sound they have now. That's just my opinion. I'm sure that would be almost impossible for them to do, but if they could, oh boy, that would be great. But that's just to say how good these new presets are. That's what I'm finding so far. So let's go and play this little VSL solo string idea. Very simple, and then we'll see if we can get the orchestra to just make it big. So very simple, light, cheerful idea. And so we have three instances of the orchestra. We have a voicing, a rhythm, and an animation. And we're going to unmute the voicings. And voicings don't really use the filter system that much because a voicing you can make do anything. So I'm finding if you were to go to Forces of Fury, turn that filter on and go to voicings and say something cheerful, you'll end up maybe just getting your own user presets. So I don't think it's really because a voicing can do what you need it to do. It depends how you play it and how you voice it. So I'm finding that's not really applying here unless I'm missing something. So let's clear that out and let's just say that, well, we do want voicings and we will determine what we want. And I'm going to play it since it's a voicing that doesn't have its own animation, its own pattern or rhythm. So we're going to use a staccato. And we'll start with the Fury string staccato 1. And I'm going to play it with the RTS little pattern. But let's see what we get. So immediately we have a nice string sound. Let's try something else, and maybe we can add to this a little bit. Let's try number 3, just because we can. And because this is voiced a little differently, we're getting some lower strings, which is really nice. We could say we want to have, we could try a marcato, which would give us a longer articulation. And depending what pattern you're playing, it'll give you something different. But I think a staccato or shorter note would be better. And we could also go in here and just turn down the reverb, because I have my own little reverb on this channel. So let's go back. And we can see that we can go and just move it up a bit with this very tricky little slider that everybody loves so much. And now we can use a orchestra staccato one. And I think that'll take us closer to what we need here. So now we're getting some brass in there. We're getting other orchestral instruments. Let's try number 2. And because they're here, let's try something called the Shark Falls. I think that's what it's saying. All right, so let's stick with that one. Let's move forward and say we want to go with the rhythm. We want to add the second one here. And now we can use the presets maybe in a better way, or I should say the filtering of the presets. So let's clear out everything, and let's say we want forces of fury, we want a rhythm, and we want something cheerful. And the options are here. We don't want a 3/4 time. We don't want a triplet. Let's go with the classical eighth. So that's what it's going to add. It's got its own rhythm. And let's play it now. Let's try it. I'm just kind of freestyling here a little bit. Let's go with a different scale. All right, so we're getting a fuller sound. And now let's add the animation. So we unmute that, and we can clear everything and try these filters out. Forces of fury, animated, and cheerful, and catching the joke, celestial flow, and let's try that. And these are very high sounds, and the strings are high, so it might be too much high, but let's give it a go. So if we were to use this, like the high end is really getting beautiful. It's got some, but there's no real low end here. So if I was to go with these presets, I would add a fourth that would be dedicated to some nice low sound. So yeah, I think this is very usable for our first attempt. But let's go back and mute the first two. And let's go back and say that, see what else we can pick for initial voicing. We could go to a nice big Hollywood sound, but the Hollywood is sustains, and let's just go with Voices of Fury. And so it did give us a filter in that case, which is interesting. And it did, I think that's a bug there, so I'm not sure if they squashed that bug. Let's see if we can get a fuller, bigger Fury Orchestra staccato figures. So let's see how that goes. Okay, and then for our rhythm, let's go and say maybe we want something a little majestic instead. So we turn off cheerful and go majestic. And peaceful. Let's maybe turn off all the filters. Now let's go with something bigger. So the filter system seems a little quirky unless you're in the animated where it really, that's where you want to use those filters more. But maybe that's just the way I'm using it here. But let's say, well, let's turn on Voices of Fury so we can filter that out. Fury strings rhythm 8th. And we have it muted. Let's unmute. So now we're getting a little more tension. And let's unmute the animation and let's start to move faster here. Let's go with something majestic maybe. So we're going from cheerful to majestic, which is getting a little bit more dramatic. All right, let's give that a whirl. Now let's adjust that down a bit. So now I would say that, yeah, it's pretty majestic, and it worked really quick. We're still lacking some low end. So if I was to do this for real, I would have another one dedicated for some low end bass. But for today, let's continue with the staccato figures. Maybe we'll go to the shark. So now it's getting a little darker. Let's go to dramatic now. And just to make sure we got the filters working right, let's go to Voices of Fury, dramatic. And of course, there's going to be some big sounds coming in here. And let's take the first one there. That's an 8th. And again, let's clear this and say voices and animated and dramatic. And Evil March may be too much, but let's, yeah, it's quite a bit. Let's try that. So all three together. I think it's still working with the initial solo or VSL solo string, but it's doing exactly what you would expect. It's making it dramatic, fuller, and bigger really quick. So let's just continue here. Let's go with maybe some action riffs. And we may turn the, let's see, the voicings down an octave. And we may go to still dramatic and go with Fury Unleashed, which let's hear that. And again, let's go to the mixer, turn down the reverb a little bit, and go back to the main. And you can see that I'm animating the different scenes. And yeah, it all comes together. So again, you would want to fine-tune the drums, maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, the idea is here is starting with a simple musical theme and just being able to work with it real quick. So let's continue. Apocalyptic. Now we're getting into some big time stuff here. And we'll leave that. So the simple little airy theme has now become and so we may want to change the scale and get into something that kind of matches that drama. Hear that brass come in towards the end? Yeah, I like that. That's impressive. Let's do one more here, and let's go back to something maybe. Let's just clear this out, and let's go back to something maybe less crazy, less dramatic, and let's go back to something maybe staccato 4, and let's clear that and go maybe rhythm peaceful, and these look familiar, but and let's clear that out and go to something that is peaceful, and now let's try our original idea with that. So, yeah, I think it does what you want it to do. You're able to go in and pick out using these presets. And I should also mention that, of course, the orchestra has all of these instruments as separate instruments that you can, if you want to go in, I think you could use this to sketch an idea, then take note of what instruments are playing, and then you could go in and fine-tune it. You could pick out that brass sound and just work it the way you want. You can pick out certain strings and effects. So don't forget that the presets are one thing, but it comes with, these instruments separate so that you can really focus in, and it comes with a bunch of extras and the multis, which we haven't even touched on yet. So I think for today's little demonstration of, the filter system and how you can take, a very simple idea. Yeah, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're able to make music wherever you're at. I would appreciate a like. Those likes and views and comments keep this channel going. And we'll catch you on the next video.